Hello everybody and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, Heroclix, and the other entertaining games made by Whiz Kids. I'm WizDad, and I get worried every time I watch Toy Story with my kids. Could you imagine if toys actually came to life when we weren't looking? Could you imagine how quickly Heroclix players would lose if a battle broke out, like in the hit 1998 movie Small Soldiers with Tommy Lee Jones and Kirsten Dunst? Could you just imagine all of those Heroclix, swarming you? I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the WizKids Triforce of gaming. It's Heroclix Friday. We have just a ton to talk about in today's episode. We've got a lot of news to cover, and in the fishing segment, we will be exploring Silver Age now that WizKids has dropped a whole bunch of changes upon us. But first, let's talk about all that news in the WizKids Progress Report.
Kowalski, Progress Report.
WizKids Solicits. That's what I feel like the WizKids Progress Report has effectively turned into every episode, is where I go over all the solicits and remind people of what's coming out and what's happening. Well, to kick things off, we still have no date listed for the Colossal Kong. We are almost halfway through January. That has me a little bit concerned. Now, January does have the 31st, which is a Wednesday, because remember, Heroclix typically come out on Wednesdays. For example, this past Wednesday, the 10th, the DC Comics Cry for Blood monthly OP kit should have been out. I don't know if my store got it in yet. I know it was on our orders, so it should have been here this week, maybe next time we get something in. Additionally, the Pathfinder Battles Iconic Heroes XI or 11 box set, the Icons of the Realms Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, and the Pathfinder Battles Gods of the Lost Omens came out on Wednesday. Next week, on the 17th, is the next booster brick of the D&D Icons of the Realms Phandelver and Below the Shattered Obelisk. So if you're into those boosters, which I've mentioned before on the podcast, I think they're super cool. I think they're super expensive. That's the only problem, is when I go to pick one up and it's $25 or something like that. Yeah, that's a little too rich for me. The other two things that don't have a date yet on the solicits for January is the Icons of the Realms Hydra boxed miniature and then the Critical Role Darrington Brigade box set. So those are the ones that still have a big old question mark on them. We don't have anything with dates yet for February. We do know, I believe, let's see, where did we hear it? Something about confirmation that next phase. Oh, there was in the latest Game Trade magazine, there was talk about next phase. And we know we're getting some trick arrows and stuff. Game Trade always has a little blurb from WizKids, because that's one of the few places they still do advertising. And there was a little blurb about Lucky, the dog, whatever the dog's name is, and it mentioned trick arrows, which I guess is going to be some sort of mechanic that exists in the set. So that is set out for February still. I haven't heard anything about pre-releases. We still haven't gotten a Scott Porter video. I'm guessing we might get one Monday. If I were to a betting man, we're probably in the neighborhood of starting one. So probably Monday, MLK Day, we might kick things off with a Scott Porter video, hopefully. Something else I want to address out here in the February solicits. Out of the ashes, not having a single release in 2023 and only a few releases in 2022 is Star Trek Attack Wing, guys. Yes, it's not dead. It's not. There's a bunch of stuff actually coming out in February. We have Star Trek Attack Wing Federation Faction Pack. These are the Voyages. We have Star Trek Attack Wing Independent Faction Pack, Adversaries of the Delta Quadrant, and we have Star Trek Attack Wing Federation Faction Pack, Lost in the Delta Quadrant. So Attack Wing is back. Cool. We knew, I talked about it in the board game episode, we knew that there was Star Trek board games or campaign type boxes, but those were, I don't think those were Attack Wing specific. Those were like campaign / like almost like a board game, right? But here we go, out on the solicits, out of nowhere, after a year of sleeping, Attack Wing is back. Like, it's here. So any of those here that like Attack Wing, awesome. I don't play Attack Wing. I'm probably not going to cover too much like from a competitive or play style, but I'll mention on solicits. So if you're interested in the game at all, you know, I wouldn't say listen to my podcast just to hear about the game, because I am not talking about the game much, but I will mention when the releases are coming around. Sherlock Holmes is still set for February. The one thing that is not out here that I keep mentioning over and over, and I've gotten somewhat of an update on it, is it was mentioned again recently on the Onslaught Discord. Basically that they're we're missing Sellswords 2. It's not showing up on any of the distributor lists. It's not out here on solicits. There's no Onslaught on solicits. Basically, the solicit should be available soon. This was told to us yesterday on the Discord. Hopefully, it'll be out there and give us kind of a good idea when it's coming out. My guess is it's not coming out in January anymore. May have gotten pushed to February, because if it's not on the solicits, how is anyone going to order it? So, hopefully it comes out before Adepticon, because I would like to see these new Sellswords, because I want to try to run a Sellswords faction. Like, it just as that's my team. I want to see if it's good, but that really depends on the last 3 or 4 characters. Assuming a Conke that we get in the Sellswords 2 is the same as the one we got in the OP kit. Because that is my plan for Onslaught. I know I didn't do an episode this past Wednesday. That's because I am working on things to lead up to Adepticon. Because Adepticon is our next major tournament, I want to start kind of a series where I go over how I would prepare for it, what teams I'm thinking about doing, looking through some of the scenarios, see if I could get some of the scenarios a little early to give an idea, because they do release those early, to show, hey, this is what we're looking at for Adepticon. How would you prepare your team for it? How are you practicing for it? Same with Heroclix. I don't know if I mentioned this on the previous show. I'm pretty sure I did last week because it was out. But hey, Adepticon now has a major Heroclix tournament. 300-point modern. I'm excited. The community is excited. This is exactly what everyone needed. This is massive. Like, it's big. Primarily because we now have a spring tournament. I was not going to Champion Clicks, which is in a couple weeks. We'll talk a little bit about that leading up to it. But I was not going to Champion Clicks because it just didn't work out budget-wise. And Adepticon does. Adepticon does work out for me. So that's great. I can't wait to have a 300-point modern tournament to plan for. That's another series I will cover going forward, is modern, covering 300-point modern for Adepticon. I've signed up. Currently tickets are sold out, but they have said that they are working on expanding that and basically getting it above the 32. I don't think they anticipated so many people signing up to play. It's better to be cautiously optimistic than too optimistic and setting yourself up for failure. So I'm excited. It's crazy that 32 people signed up so quickly. But I know me and the Clickstop crew, we have quite a few people going to this, and it will be a blast. I'm hoping to see a decent amount of people there. Going to be there for just a couple days to play in the tournament. I plan on recording Onslaught while I'm there, because I can't play them both unless they'll let me play them both somehow, and maybe do some BRs and stuff. So I'm hoping Adepticon turns out good. We'll talk a lot about Adepticon leading up to Adepticon. Besides that, that's about it for new news. We are, at the beginning of the 2024 season of Heroclix and Onslaught. So it is very exciting times. The key news that I wanted to talk about, I'm going to talk about in the Fishing with WizDad segment, because we're going to talk about Silver Age. So I'll see you over there.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
Oh boy. Can you hear that? That's about me rubbing my hands together. This is some exciting stuff to talk about. So before we kick into the Silver Age news, let's talk about Silver Age in general. I know there's some apprehensive feelings about Silver Age. I've talked to a lot of people, or a decent amount of people, that just want 300 point modern. Period. Let's just do 300 point modern. And that's not because Silver Age is necessarily bad. It's more, I feel like, because there's just not enough modern play for players. Makes complete sense. I think Champion Click's Adepticon is helping that. But there is desire for more. We had a heyday back in the day with WKOs where every 2 to 3 months you had some significant tournaments or less. And I think we're getting back to that kind of thing. Not WKOs specifically, but with kind of a con-based tournament system and the store championships, which we haven't really heard much about since Worlds and since Gen Con. I think we're getting back to a system of that. So there's a little bit of sour sentiment towards Silver Age. One, because it's a little Wild Wild West still, but also because everyone wants just modern. And for me, Silver Age feels like an alternative format, which is perfectly fine. And I have shifted my mentality a little bit towards it and made it seem, in my head, like the Rock Ages of old. Remember, not even that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. The years blur. There was seasons. There was like the first quarter of the year was modern limited, so you were limited to what you could have. No equipment. There's a few other limitations to it, but it wasn't pure modern, and people still liked it, and people still played it, and people loved it. And then modern came around, and people were fine with it. That's how I treat Silver Age. Silver Age is kind of the main focus for the first 4 months leading up to the Rock Cup, and then after that, everything kind of switches over to modern for nationals. There's still modern tournaments happening, but Silver Age is kind of to the forefront. I'm okay with that. It's nice to have alternative formats. It's nice to have some of these figures sitting on my shelf staring at me like they're from Toy Story out there, like out playing. So yesterday we got some significant Silver Age news, basically kicking off the season. It first was released on the Rock page ahead of WizKids, I think because WizKids was taking a little bit, and then WizKids published it on their website, and then Rock took off theirs. So let's talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to read through everything on the article because you guys can read, but it is on the WizKids page, Heroclix page. As we head into the 2024 Heroclix season, we want to take a moment to discuss the future of Silver Age events. After discussing with our partners at The Rock, and many fans came out to compete, we're excited to announce several changes to the format to basically separate it from modern. And I've mentioned this before. Silver Age kicked off officially, last year? Because it kicked off the way that it did. It started with Sinister Foes. That meant a majority of Silver Age was modern to begin with. It was always going to feel like modern heavy until years went by and more things rotated. More and more things that went into Silver Age and out of modern would mean Silver Age would continue to grow and grow and grow. So, if you felt like Silver Age was modern heavy before, it's a time thing. You gotta just let things rotate. And the benefit is, a lot of things did rotate recently. In 2024, all sanctioned Silver Age events will adhere to the following format changes. The build total is raised to 400 points. So we're up from 300. At least 200 points of the team's main force must come from sets that are not modern legal. keyword there is least. So it doesn't have to be exactly 200. It could be more than 200 comes from Silver Age. You just can't have more than 200 of Modern Age. And then the final major change is to secure a mission point victory, a team must accrue 30 points. As we transition to a wildly different format, we are updating the ban list to temporarily include figures we foresee causing issues with this format, or that were especially potent during their time in Modern. The following bans are only in effect for the 2024 season and will expire after the Heroclix World Championships in 2024. So what we're seeing now is there is a permanent ban list, and then there is like a temporary ban list, like a shelf. You go up here on the shelf, you're sitting out the year. You're going on IR, injured reserve. So the temporary bans is a kind of a big list. Temporary bans: All Black the Necro Sword, Slop Apocalypse, so the OP Apocalypse, Carnage Silver Surfer, Dark Phoenix, Dr. Claire Finn and Lieutenant Yaphet, Eternity from Avengers Infinity, Slop Genesis, not Fantastic Four, Avengers Infinity Fast Forces Giant Girl, Maggot, Sarkarian Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, obviously the one from Disney Plus, Sky Tyrant, Thugs from Sinister Foes, and Venom Magneto. Now they give a little bit of explanation of why. Most of it is, in the case of Apocalypse, Carnage Silver Surfer, All Black, Dark Phoenix. I guess Dark Phoenix, that's kind of a question mark for me with Dark Phoenix. I guess because of the smaller maps. Maggot, Sarkarian Iron Man, Scarlet Witch. Like, most of these are because they were just way too oppressive in the Modern to begin with. There are ones that... The Carnage Silver Surfer, for example, is by far the best figure in Modern that we have. Well, alright, let him sit on the shelf for Silver Age. Like, otherwise, it's just going to be 200 points of Silver Age and 4 Carnage Silver Surfers. Venom Magneto makes sense because I've been saying for a long time Venom Magneto was a crutch, but now we've got 2 more crutches in the form of Scott Porters. There's not really anything on this temporary ban list I have a problem with. Dark Phoenix may be the only one, but I could also understand why, because we are on these smaller maps. Smaller maps means she could just target, right? Like, she doesn't even really have to move, and she could shoot a starting zone almost. So there's some danger there with that. I can understand that. Yeah, besides that, their argument for Giant Girl is because she saw frequent play for her ability to retaliate in multiples and fill starting areas. So basically, because it was 10 points, you could play a bunch of them and expand the starting zone. But also from the fact that she's one of the few retails that you could play multiple and they can all retail. So I guess that one's understandable. Maggot makes sense. There's not really anyone on here. The ones that you may be questioning are Dr. Claire Finn and Lieutenant Yaphet. If you haven't ever played those are from the Orville set. She has low points. She gives you a free support, but it's Yaphet basically giving everyone on the team or everyone adjacent sidestep. That makes games incredibly long because you have the little sidestep do-si-do and just allows for way too much movement. So I'm completely fine with Dr. Claire Finn and Yaphet being on. It's a little surprised Flash isn't on here, or at least on a watch list of some sort. Then we have Eternity. Eternity's problem is that because Eternity has all keywords, I believe it has all keywords, it has Black Lanterns, and that means you could heal Eternity from the lower point to 1,000 points or whatever Eternity has. So that's kind of cutting that off ahead of the game. Last one is Thug. Thug also keyword cheats, and so because we have these rings, you're effectively getting free rings. Like, you're paying 0 points to have a ring carrier or something like that. So makes sense that Thugs would kind of get off the team a little bit. Besides all of that, so let's talk about the watch list. So there are figures that they're watching to see how they perform and see if they do need to go on some sort of ban list going forward. I'm not going to read the whole list because it is long, but some key performers on there. Emotional modifier, time platform, cloak of levitation, Wendigo is a big one. Peacemaker, some of the cards, they actually have a bunch of the tarot cards on here. Lovers, Judgment, the World, Wheel of Fortune, Temperance, the Moon. I think that a lot of that has to deal with mission points as well. Fabian Cortez is on here. That's interesting. I think every figure that has mission points is on this list. So consider it that way. That's probably a lot to deal with it. Ultron Pym, because they both have mission point things. Yeah, most of these are mission point based. And then some Proteus is on there, but almost everyone is mission point based. And then they're doing a couple of erratas. Well, I guess anti-erratas. Jakeem Thunder is going back to what he used to be, baby. So no more shape change having to be one of the two powers you pick, or you can only pick shape change. They got rid of that. And the big one for me, because I love this guy at 175, they are dialing back the errata for Goblin King. If you remember a long time ago, Goblin King was a bit oppressive and very much worth his points at 75 because he had Power Cosmic his whole dial. They did an errata, two erratas effectively. One, making it where he didn't have Power Cosmic, or Cosmic Energy now, on his 75 point and 175 line. And they also made it where if he chooses powers, it only lasts until your next turn. Well, now they're undoing that. So it goes back to how it used to be, where he basically has Power Cosmic, period. And when he can take a free action, choose two standard powers, and he has it until he chooses again. I think that's fine. I think Goblin King at 275 in this game is going to be a little crazy because it is a 400 point game now, which I'll talk about in a minute. I think getting rid of that is great because I think taking it away at 175 I think was crazy. I loved Goblin King playing him. He wasn't incredibly broken. I don't think, at least. 75 point is the one I could understand. Taking away from that low point, because at the time, we didn't have a ton of Power Cosmic at lower points. But now they hand it out like candy, right? So, I love the change. It's great. Lastly, to the permanent ban list. Legion, the B-Dial, which everyone knows. That one is the one where he makes the chains. That's permanently banned. Miss Minutes is permanently banned. And Molecule Man is permanently banned. And Dr. Moira McTaggart, the one who dishes out Rally Die, is permanently banned. We actually have our first unban. Thanos is back. Molecule Man's gone. ID cards are gone. Thanos is back. He still has his erratas that he had before. But he's no longer banned. Because he doesn't honestly need to be. My biggest concern in Silver Age is the 400 points. So let's talk about that a little bit. We now have this new Silver Age. We have this new world, this new age that we're going into. 200 points of it has to be Silver Age. Minimum. 400 points. What are we looking at as far as competitive goes? Well, the world is your oyster. Is that the phrase? I guess that's the phrase. But there's a lot of potential out there. Especially with some of the big ones gone. We lost Scarlet Witch. Agatha's still around. Cosmo's still around. Leech is still around. So we still have power erasers. We just don't have Scarlet Witch, who was a little too oppressive. So, let's talk a little bit, let's do a little bit of team building, shall we? I say we do it. So, I am I'm gonna build. Let's do. Let's do Avengers, because why not? I always like doing Avengers, right? So let's do Avengers. So I did a little bit of looking last night. So the reason I'm doing Avengers is simply because I have a history of doing Avengers. I love an Avengers swap. I love Avenger teams. I'm a big Avengers fan. So, sure, Avengers. Let's talk. Last night I went through a lot of the Silver Age Avengers keywords and picked out figures I feel like could make an impact. Now, obviously, Avengers lost Sarkea and Iron Man and Scarlet Witch. Those were the two biggest pieces that, one, they had going for them, but also they just plain lost. So, gotta acknowledge the elephant in the room here. But the thing that Avengers still has is swap out potential, because we still do have Captain America, and they have great keyword cheating out of the Captain America and Avengers Captain America. So to explain, Steve Rogers, I should say, number 38 from CAAV, Steve Rogers, allows you to choose a standard character of 50 points or less. They lose the printed keywords, and they gain Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D. So keep that in your pocket. But let's talk about some of these Avengers pieces in general that are available in Silver Age. We'll start with most recent. The most recent one I'll talk about, and I've mentioned him before, is Two Gun Kid. Yes, that is exactly what everyone was expecting. They were expecting me to talk about Two Gun Kid. Two Gun Kid, 20 points. Never played him at 35. Running shot, but don't have the speed, so a 7 movement running shot, 6 range. So 13 total range for an attack. He's got traded prop control. He's got flight, and he ignores characters for movement. Then his attack power at the beginning of your turn, choose an effect for Two Gun Kid to have it to your next turn. Modify damage +1, precision strike, range, and then have a range action, make 2 range attacks. That's one thing you could choose. The other one is he could choose to have the other one, which is range, make a range attack targeting all opposing characters within range and line of fire. Set a normal damage. Each hit character is given an action token is dealt 1 damage. So majority of the time, you're probably picking the 2 attacks. So, precision strike, 3 damage, only a 9 attack, but he does have the Avenger TA. So on his own, he could be, like a 10 attack. That's fine. He's got prob. You could perplex up that 10 attack to an 11, 12, whatever. But he's attacking twice, 3 damage apiece with precision strike. That's before being equipped. That's before getting a Frenchie, because he does have the vehicle keyword. That's before anything else. And he's 20 points. He could also shoot out of adjacency. I love Two Gun Kid. I think he's great. I would foresee maybe playing 2 of them, because he could be a pretty high damage dealer for 20 points. I think he's absolutely being slept on. Next on the list of potentials, Falcon, obviously from Avenger 60th. Just doing like that long 8 movement pseudo TK is enough to write on scratch paper for 50 points. Because also keep in mind we're in 400 points, which I still don't necessarily agree with, but it is what it is, right? So, Falcon, absolutely on the team because he can carry your Avenger up, whoever that may be. Prime Hulk is potentially one of 2 primes you're considering for Avengers. So, I don't think Prime Hulk needs an explanation. You have got Super Rare Spider-Man from Avengers 60th. Mostly because at 25 points, he gives Avengers wildcard, team player, effectively. Which, that's an okay pick. That's kind of a middle-of-the-road type pick. A big one, I think, is Miss Marvel, Super Rare. Don't forget, she exists. When establishing Theme Team, she could choose a keyword to gain. So she is your access to the rings. and she would be able to use them for free. And free, choose one to last until your next turn. When she's tiny, when an adjacent character begins to move after resolutions, you may place Miss Marvel adjacent to him. So what you do, turn 1, make her tiny. Turn 2, Falcon moves out, taking somebody. She goes along for free, gets placed. You then make her normal, if you want, so she can flurry. And then she can flurry somebody with close combat expert. And she could drop a chainsaw, all for 50 points. It's great, a lot of damage. A lot of damage there. She traded close combat expert shape change. I love it. Next up I have on the list, and this is untested, I have not tested these yet, is the Iron Man Hall of Armor set. I mentioned this in my Iconics review. I think they're very interesting. I think they're well worth the price for 80 points because you get 8 clicks. So that's in the golden ratio. I think being able to pop out all these little suits is great. The only concern with Avengers is that we do have limited sideline space. While it is 400 and we get that extra sideline space, it's still limited, right? Like, if we're doing swap out, it's still limited. We may have enough options where we don't have to do swap out, or we do a minor swap out. But I do think the Iron Man Iconics is in consideration for what they do. The big boy is definitely going to be Prime Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man set. People often forget that he is an Avenger. While we don't have the Necro Sword, we do have a lot of other things out there that give him stuff, like a lot of equipment. Don't forget we have all the modern equipment, but we have all of the Silver Age equipment. Waldo Arms isn't a bad choice. We have all the gems that he could choose. If I were choosing gems, I mean, Power Gem is pretty solid, right? Soul Gem is okay for healing purposes. I don't think I gave him any of the cubes. Those are too expensive. Ock Arms is great, even though he already has Flurry. So, doesn't really need the Ock Arms, per se, even though it would give him giant reach. Old Symbiote is okay. Exospecs on its own is pretty good. And then you've got all these rings, too, right? So, like, while we don't have the Necro Sword to get through Shape Change and Super Senses, we do have the Spectral Ring, which just gets through, gives you Precision Strike. And then you can also give him something like Zero Ring or Spin Ring. Influence is really good for the Force Blast. There's a lot of options out there. A whole lot of options. And you know what? There's even some of these from Mighty Thor. Don't forget we have all the swords. Not to be confused with the Exosword stuff. But we do have things like... let's see. Dragon Fang would not be in my wheelhouse. Jarn Bajorn to make the attack rolls of 9 through 11 count as critical hits. That's not bad. Spider-Man doesn't have a range, right? Range of 4. So that wouldn't be terrible if you were Mjolnir. That wouldn't be bad. There's a lot of options out here. Whole lot of options. So that's Spider-Man. Frogman. Whole lot of man out here. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Frogman. Frogman, I think is great. 30 points. Force Blast is amazing. Don't sleep on Frogman. Miss Kang I put out there. She might be getting a little overcosted, but she gives you a lot of prob and some bystanders. So I say overcosted, but I guess I'm considering that in a 300-point game. If I'm thinking about it more in a 400-point game, she might just be perfectly fine. I put Rick Jones on here simply because from a swapping standpoint, at the beginning of the game, generate a bystander on his card. Thanks to new rules, you can pop out a bystander and then send Rick Jones away. You're probably never playing him at his actual point, like on the field. Another sleeper Avenger pick is Manifold at 300 at 30 points, not 300, 30 points. Simply because he is a taxi, he has phasing stealth, he gives adjacent characters combat reflexes, he's got shield. He's got a lot going on for 30 points. Kinda easy to kill, but a lot going on. Let's not forget Hope Summers at 40 points. She used to be the only leadership that Avengers had for a while, or only good one. But still at 40 points, TK, enhancement, she could take some powers from some people. Hope Summers is really good. You have Swapping Captain America played at 40 or 75, or even 100 in this format, to be real. He's very good. I am going to first look at swap teams before I look at just... I might look at just flat Avengers teams and see what they look like. Build around probably Prime Spider-Man, Miss Marvel, Falcon, kind of that whole... Kind of what I played near Nationals of carried everybody up. You drop Spider-Man, drop some Marvels, and then you're dropping everything, and you've got a lot to go. But the problem there is you're kind of sitting on not enough actions. But you can kind of make up with that thanks to something else we'll talk about. Well, I guess we'll talk about it now. Why not? Steve Rogers. So I mentioned before, Steve Rogers allows you to bring any 50-point character, standard character of 50 points or less, and bring him to the Avengers team. I have not done a full list yet of great pieces. I guess we could do a little one right now. Why not? But what it does allow, at least the first things I'm thinking of, is you could bring Mephisto, right? Mephisto's a big one. But you could also bring, let's see, where are they? Who is worth 50 points that everybody loves? That's right. You could bring the Masters of Evil. So my thought is that Masters of Evil engine absolutely would love to be on the Avengers. Even if it's just limited. Once again, this is me thinking very minimal swap. Because if you think of Masters of Evil, you think of those shifting focus Iron Man, and you think of swap, there's not enough sideline space for that. So you could add Killmonger. Like, if you look at just Killmonger and Iron Inquisitor, that's pretty good. Like, that's pretty good. Like, just having that little engine going. Because effectively what you do with Steve is Steve brings one of these characters on, and then he gets swapped out. So I would definitely consider... That is probably the top of my list of characters I would consider for this Avenger team. But running down the list here, from Wheels of Vengeance, Night Nurse, I guess, 30 Point Zarathos, I guess. Ghost Surfer already has Avengers. I didn't put Ghost Surfer initially because I don't know how I feel about Ghost Surfer. You could argue maybe Blackheart, but that adding Blackheart doesn't get around the whole monster mystical limitation. So that's something to consider. That it does not get around that. From Notorious, I don't love 50-point Poison Ivy, so probably not bringing her. I don't really care about the Black Lanterns because I don't have a Necron. Calendar Man. Funny enough, Calendar Man may not be bad if it's an even month. That's funny. I didn't even consider Calendar Man. We know the Masters of Evil. We already talked about that one. Spider-Man, if Carnage Silver Surfer was around, we would do that, but he is not. So really nothing from that set I'm looking to add. We've got the Scott Porters, obviously, can kind of add themselves. Ace is an interesting one. Ace, she has Legacy Ace. Shape Change Outwit. Other characters friendly and opposing can't use Outwit. Safeguard Outwit. Or Protected Outwit. TK, Barrier, Perplex. She might see a role on the team. I would have to test that one out. Batman team up, there's really not much I'm going for unless I want to bring, like if I'm not doing Spider-Man or Hulk, I'm opting to do, you know, like a 25-point Prime Batman just to give myself the ring and the Bat Belt. That's a consideration. Let's see. 50 points. Not 50 point. Where'd it go? Going into Avengers Forever. Most of these are Avengers anyway. So not really anything there. Nothing really from the slop unless you want a Saturnine. Nothing from the main set X of Swords. Unless you want like a Deadpool, perhaps. Merlin, I always jump at Merlin. Mad Jim is a consideration, but you're already hurting for sideline space, so Mad Jim is unlikely to make the list, unfortunately. Disney Plus, we've got most of what we need. Most of the good stuff from Disney Plus is banned, so probably nothing from there. War of the Realms. Man, guys, I'm not seeing a ton I want to bring onto the team in Modern. We're in Silver Age now, though. You know, Demon in Armor's not bad. Kind of give you more of a defensive shell. So he would be one I consider. You do have Lockjaw. If you really want Lockjaw to be part of the team and carry people around, that works. Huh. Yeah, I'm just kind of digging back through some of these sets, and you know, I'm probably skipping over a bunch, but it's something to keep in mind going forward. Flash is a good one. Chip's a good one. Scarab is banned. That's right, Scarab's banned. Sky Tyrant's banned. Can't do either of those. Commissioner's not banned. So Commish is a good one. Any of these Ring Bearers is a pretty good one. Yeah, there's a lot to chew with Silver Age now. Right now, I'm thinking of Avengers, mostly because that's kind of my default now. That's the knowledge I've stuck in my head, and I think it's pretty good. Like, I think even with the loss of Sarkrea and Iron Man and Scarlet Witch, it's something to not be slept on. So, think about this going forward, because this is going to do it for this episode. We're going to do a lot more Silver Age talk. I'm going to break down different keywords. Going to kind of build into the different tournaments, because we do have tournaments coming up. There is a regional in Chattanooga, Tennessee on February 17th. So if you're in the southeast area, there is a Silver Age regional that'll be happening. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully people could go to that. I will be there, so that'll be fun. But we will do a lot of Silver Age talk going forward. Some Modern talk also. We're leading up to Adepticon. There's a lot to talk about, guys. But just wanted to get the news out there, kind of do a little preliminary team of Avengers. There's something to work there. But I think we will dig a little bit deeper in our subsequent episodes. So thank you guys for listening to Whiz. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will see you guys on Monday, hopefully, for Mashup Monday. Have a great day.